Most people are so busy watching others, comparing, competing, and gossiping, that they forget to take care of the most important person in their life, themselves. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. And when you turn that silence inward, when you stop chasing noise and start focusing on your own path, something powerful happens. You stop being distracted by what others think, and you start becoming who you truly are. Silence protects your energy in ways that most people never realize until they begin to practice it. Every single day, countless situations pull at you, demanding your reaction, begging for your words, provoking you into arguments that add nothing to your growth. And most of the time, without thinking, you respond. You argue back, you explain yourself, you defend your position, and in doing so, you hand over pieces of your energy to people and circumstances that do not deserve it. What you don't see in that moment is how much of your strength you are giving away by simply reacting to every noise around you. Imagine carrying a jar of water that represents your energy. Every time you argue over something small, a little water spills out. Every time you let someone's opinion affect you, more spills out. Every time you respond to gossip, criticism, or meaningless talk, the jar becomes lighter. By the end of the day, you are empty, not because life required that much from you, but because you wasted yourself on things that never mattered. Silence is the act of protecting that jar. It is the choice not to let your energy leak away into meaningless directions. People often think silence is weakness. They assume if you don't fight back, you are losing. But silence is not losing. Silence is a conscious decision that says, I value my peace more than your noise. I value my energy more than this argument. In truth, silence is strength, because it takes discipline not to engage. It takes inner power to walk away from conflict. And it takes confidence to not explain yourself every time someone misunderstands you. The weak shout to be heard. The strong stay silent, knowing that their actions, their results, and their presence speak louder than any words ever could. Think of how many people live in constant reaction. Someone criticizes them, they reply. Someone provokes them, they get angry. Someone disrespects them, they fight. But all this does is prove that the other person has power over them. When you stay silent, when you choose not to engage, you take that power back. Your silence is a mirror that shows others their own noise. It is a reminder that you are not controlled by the storm outside. You are anchored within yourself. Silence also gives you time. In the pause where you could have reacted, you create space to reflect. Instead of shouting back, you breathe. Instead of defending yourself, you think. Instead of wasting energy, you channel it towards something that helps you grow. That is why silence is never passive. Silence is active. It is you making the choice to preserve your energy and invest it where it belongs. And here lies the real beauty of silence. The energy you save, the power you protect, becomes fuel for your own growth. Instead of pouring yourself into battles with others, you pour yourself into becoming stronger, calmer, and more centered. Instead of reacting outward, you build inward. That is how silence transforms into strength, because every ounce of energy you save becomes an investment into the person you are becoming. So the next time someone provokes you, the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, or the next time the noise of the world tries to drag you into chaos, remember this: not everything deserves your reaction. Protect your energy. Preserve your strength. Let silence guard the power that you will need for the battles that truly matter. The truth is, most people spend their lives looking outward instead of inward. They look at what others are doing, what others have achieved, how others are living, and they measure themselves against that. This constant comparison creates a cycle of distraction, where your focus is always drifting outside of yourself. You start living to match an image, to meet expectations, to prove something to someone else. And in that process, you lose sight of the one thing that really matters: you. When you begin to focus inward, something shifts. You start to see how much energy you've wasted watching other people's paths while neglecting your own. Every moment you spend envying, comparing, or gossiping is a moment stolen from your growth. Focusing on yourself means reclaiming those stolen moments and channeling them into building something greater within you. It means asking, not, what are they doing? But, what am I doing to become better today than I was yesterday? Focus has an incredible power. What you focus on grows. If you focus on negativity, it expands. If you focus on problems, they multiply. But if you focus on your growth, your discipline, your craft, your health, your mind, then step by step, all of these aspects expand and strengthen. Most people do not lack potential. They lack focus. They scatter their attention across 1,000 different directions, and then they wonder why they are not growing. But growth only comes when energy is concentrated, when you choose to direct your mind toward yourself and your path. It is easy to say, I want to improve. But improvement doesn't happen by chance. It happens when you place deliberate focus on yourself. Think of an athlete. They don't grow stronger by watching others train. They grow by putting in hours of their own work, in silence, in discipline, away from the crowd. The same applies to your life. If you keep watching others, you become a spectator of life. When you turn your focus inward, you become a participant in your own transformation. The challenge is that the world is full of distractions. Every screen, every voice, every opinion is competing for your attention. That is why focus requires discipline. It requires you to say no to noise, so you can say yes to your growth. It requires you to ignore what others expect from you and concentrate on what you expect from yourself. And when you do this, you realize that true satisfaction never comes from applause or approval. It comes from knowing that you are walking your own path, steadily and silently. There is a peace that comes with focusing on yourself, because when your attention is on your own growth, you stop worrying about being better than others. You only care about being better than the person you were yesterday. That kind of focus removes jealousy, it removes comparison, and it removes unnecessary competition. It creates a calm determination where your only rival is the person in the mirror. This is how growth happens. Not by chasing what others are doing, not by scattering your attention on endless distractions, but by turning inward and making yourself the priority. When you learn to focus on yourself, you create progress where it matters most, and progress, no matter how small, compounds into transformation. So let others chase each other in circles. Let them be distracted by noise and competition. You stay still, you stay silent, and you focus with complete attention on building yourself. Because the more you focus inward, the more you grow outward into the person you were always meant to become. Clarity is one of the greatest gifts that silence gives you. When you are constantly speaking, constantly responding, constantly filling every empty space with words, you do not give yourself the chance to truly see or to truly hear. Noise clouds the mind. It makes you react quickly, but without depth. It pushes you to act, but without understanding. Silence, on the other hand, slows everything down. It removes the haze and allows you to see life for what it really is, not what your emotions or the noise of the world want you to believe. Most people do not lack answers, they lack clarity. They already know what the right decision is, but because their minds are filled with distractions, doubts, and the voices of others, they cannot hear themselves. This is why silence is so powerful. When you stop speaking, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to respond to everything around you, your own inner voice begins to rise. The guidance you have been searching for often does not come from outside. It comes from within. But it is silence that allows it to be heard. Think about a lake. When the water is agitated, you cannot see beneath the surface. The mud rises, the waves scatter light, and everything looks unclear. But when the water is still, When it is calm, you can see straight to the bottom. Your mind is the same. If it is full of noise, full of arguments, full of constant talking, you cannot see clearly. But when you practice silence, when you choose not to react, the mind becomes calm and the truth reveals itself. This is where clarity lies, in the stillness of silence. Clarity changes the way you act. Instead of rushing into decisions, fueled by anger or pride, you begin to pause. Instead of speaking words you will later regret, you hold them back, and in that pause, you see more clearly what needs to be said, if anything at all. Silence does not mean you will never speak, but it means that when you do speak, your words are deliberate, sharp, and meaningful. They are no longer reactions. They are responses born from clarity. When you gain clarity, you also begin to understand people better, because instead of rushing to prove your point, you begin to observe. You notice their tone, their actions, their energy. Silence allows you to see what is really being said beyond the words. Many truths are hidden not in what people speak, but in what they do not say. And if you are too busy talking, you will miss those truths. Silence sharpens your perception, and perception is the root of wisdom. But the most important clarity that silence brings is the clarity about yourself. Who you are, what you want, what you need to let go of. Many people are lost not because they cannot achieve their goals, but because they don't even know what their true goals are. They live chasing illusions, walking in circles, because they have never given themselves the silence required to look inward with honesty. Silence becomes the mirror where you finally see yourself without distortion. And once you see clearly, you can no longer lie to yourself. You know what must change, what must grow, and what must be left behind. This is why silence is not emptiness. Silence is full. It is full of clarity, full of truth, full of direction. The more you embrace it, the more you realize that the answers you seek were never far away. They were always inside you, waiting for the noise to fade. So when life feels confusing, when decisions seem heavy, when the world feels overwhelming, do not seek more noise. Seek silence, because in silence, the fog lifts, the waters calm, and clarity finally appears. Real growth does not happen in the crowd. It does not happen when you are surrounded by constant noise, endless conversations, and the opinions of others. Real growth is born in solitude, in the moments when you are alone with yourself, with your thoughts, and with your silence. It is in that space where self-mastery begins to take shape. Because only when you are left with nothing but yourself can you see who you truly are, without the masks, without the roles, without the distractions that the world constantly throws at you. People often fear being alone, because in solitude, there is no one left to blame, no one left to distract, and no one left to entertain the mind. In solitude, you are faced with your own reality. You begin to see your strengths, your weaknesses, your habits, your patterns. Many avoid this confrontation because it is easier to keep running, easier to drown in noise, easier to cover discomfort with activity. But silence and solitude do not expose you to punish you. They expose you so that you can change, so that you can refine, so that you can build yourself into someone stronger. Discipline, patience, resilience, these qualities cannot be learned from a book or borrowed from another person. They are cultivated when you spend time in silence, when you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, when you face your restless mind until it learns to obey you. This is what self-mastery means, to not be ruled by your impulses, to not be shaken by distractions, to not be controlled by emotions. And the training ground for this mastery is solitude. Consider the great achievements of human history, the greatest breakthroughs of the mind and spirit. They did not happen in crowded rooms, full of endless chatter. They were born from moments of stillness, from minds that dared to withdraw from the noise of the world to focus deeply within. Every artist, every thinker, every warrior, Every leader who has truly transformed themselves has understood the power of stepping back into silence to sharpen their inner strength. And yet, in our time, silence and solitude have become rare. We are so addicted to constant stimulation that we no longer know how to sit quietly, even for a few moments. But this inability to be still is also the reason so many people feel lost and weak. Because without time spent alone, without moments of silence, the mind never develops discipline. It remains scattered, restless, easily controlled by the outside world. When you give yourself the gift of solitude, you create a sacred space where growth happens. You may feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel restless, but that is the process. It is like forging steel. The fire and the pressure are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Over time, you become unshakable. You become patient. You learn to control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. You learn to remain steady no matter what storms are happening outside. That is the essence of self-mastery, and it can only be found when you turn away from the noise and sit with yourself in silence. So do not run from being alone. Do not fear the quiet. Seek it, embrace it, because solitude is not emptiness, it is training. It is the workshop where your character is built, where your discipline is strengthened, and where your true power is forged. And once you have mastered yourself in silence, nothing outside can ever master you again. In life, you will constantly meet people who try to pull you into battles. They will provoke you with their words, test you with their behavior, and attempt to draw out your anger just to feel powerful. It is in those moments that silence becomes your greatest weapon. Not every battle deserves your voice. Not every attack deserves your response. When you choose to stay silent, you are not surrendering. You are showing a higher level of control. You are proving that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. Many people confuse silence with weakness. They believe that if you don't speak back, if you don't defend yourself, you are letting others win. But the truth is the opposite. Every time you allow someone to provoke you into shouting, into reacting, into explaining yourself, you give them power over you. You let their actions dictate your state of mind. Silence removes that control. Silence says, you cannot disturb my peace. You cannot pull me into a fight that I did not choose. And that level of restraint is a strength that very few people possess. Think of it this way: a fire cannot burn without fuel. Arguments, conflicts, drama, they all survive on reaction. When you refuse to react, when you remain silent, the fire dies out. It has nothing to feed on. But when you argue back, when you explain, when you defend, you are giving oxygen to the flames and the fire grows. Silence is the decision to take the fuel away, to let the flames burn themselves out without you. That is not weakness. That is mastery. There is also wisdom in silence, because silence shows that you understand the difference between battles that matter and battles that do not. Not every insult deserves to be answered. Not every opinion deserves to be heard. Some fights are so small that by engaging in them, you reduce yourself to their level, but by staying silent, you rise above them. You keep your dignity intact, and in time, your silence speaks louder than any words could have. People will notice this about you. They will see that you are not easily shaken, not easily provoked, not easily manipulated. And while some may misunderstand your silence at first, eventually they will learn that it is not silence born from fear, but silence born from strength. Because only the strong can walk away. Only the strong can stay calm in the face of provocation. Only the strong can hold their tongue when their pride is screaming to respond. Silence also protects your inner world. Every word you speak in anger leaves a mark. Every argument drains your energy, and every explanation you give to people who will never understand is a piece of yourself wasted. But silence allows you to keep your energy, to preserve your power, to hold your strength within you instead of scattering it on meaningless conflicts. You are not here to fight every battle. You are here to focus on your path, your growth, your peace. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this: not responding does not mean they have won. It means you have chosen not to waste yourself on battles that do not matter. It means you have chosen peace over noise, strength over pride, clarity over chaos. And in the end, silence will always say more than words ever could. When you stop talking about what you will do and begin to silently work on yourself, people eventually notice. The energy shifts. You no longer need to explain your vision because your actions begin to reveal it. You no longer need to convince anyone of who you are because your results speak with a voice far louder than words. Silence, combined with focus, creates transformation, and transformation is undeniable. Most people waste too much time telling others about their plans, their goals, their dreams. They speak about what they will achieve one day, how they will change, how they will rise. But words without action are just empty noise. And the more you speak about what you will do, the less energy you have left to actually do it. True strength is quiet. It does not need validation before it begins. It does not seek applause while it is in the process. It works in silence until the results shine so brightly that no explanation is needed. When you focus on yourself in this way, a powerful thing happens. People around you begin to notice the difference without you saying a single word. They see the discipline in your actions. They see the consistency in your behavior. They see the results unfolding step by step. And what they once doubted, what they once dismissed, becomes undeniable because it is real. That is why silence is so powerful, because words can be questioned, but results cannot. Silence also protects your vision from the negativity of others. The moment you share your dreams too early, you open them up to criticism, doubt, and jealousy. And sometimes, those words plant seeds of hesitation within you. But when you stay silent and quietly build, no one can interfere. Your vision stays pure, your path remains clear, and you protect the fragile beginning stages of your transformation until it is strong enough to stand on its own. Silence is a shield that guards your growth from outside noise. And with this focus comes transformation. Not just in what you achieve, but in who you become. Because when you are silently working, you begin to realize that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need their approval, their applause, or their recognition. You are not working for them. You are working for yourself. That shift in perspective is freedom. It removes the weight of expectation and allows you to build purely for the sake of growth. The world has always been louder than it needs to be. People will always talk, always judge, always question. But silence sets you apart. While others waste time talking, you invest time doing. While others explain, you transform. And in time, the silence you kept becomes the very thing that amplifies your presence, because when you walk into a room, your results speak for you. So let them talk, let them doubt, let them misunderstand. You do not need to answer. You do not need to explain. Focus on yourself, work in silence, and when the time is right, your transformation will be so powerful that it will speak for you louder than anything you could ever say.